What is going on, everybody? King Recon here. Y'all know what time it is. It may look like we're late. And honestly, the past couple of weeks we have been late, but today we're not late. Today we're not late unless this video goes out later than usual, which it might. But if it comes out when I think it's going to come out, we're going to be just on time. Right on time, because ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to talk about a Hall of Fame level chapter, an all-time classic that is split into 3 separate sections that I have not been able to stop thinking about. And then, on top of that, we got all of the other insanity that we got last week, and an amazing anime episode. So it was just, last week was my week. It was my week, man. And then this weekend, I was able to play finally the Modern Warfare 2 beta, which was so much fun. When it started off, I'm not gonna lie, it was trash. At least I was trash. But once I unlocked the Hurricane, oh, we were smooth sailing. So I felt like I was playing the original Modern Warfare 2. I was taking off, man. I was like, hold up, what's going on? And so, but we're here today for the One Piece Chapter 10. You see my goats? You see my boy, dog? Like, come on now, man. When you start off a chapter, when the cover of the Weekly Shonen Jump magazine is Gear 5th Goat with a Coat, Monkey D. Come on. Come on, man. Now, before we get into the afterthoughts, I want to give a special shout and a massive thank you to all of the members. I'm gonna go one by one because y'all are my goats, man. And I meant to do this during the chapter reaction, but the excitement had me so much I forgot. So we're gonna be doing this now, starting from the bottom all the way up to the top. We got my people: Michael Mickles, Wither Jockey, Recon, OMG, Bar M, Milo D Cake, UJ, Aji Krishna. It's Batu Balu, right? Remind me again, I think it's Batu Balu, right? Batu Balu, my dog. Iron SOTG, Jarosaurus, Angra Shadow, Heishiz, Kazuki, Khan the Walrus, J Milleret, Rohan C, Aaron van der Bleek, Subra, Holosama, Tay, Arari, Presnatics, Shoyosim, Bavuk, Zen, Andres Gonzalez, Joaquin, Fang Milleret, Sticky Nut Juice, and the legendary dog from the beginning of the series, Shushu. Shushu's a member of the, can you believe it? Shushu is a member of the channel. So nothing but love to each and every single one of my members, whether you're a present member or a member from the past that's name is not on that list. I greatly appreciate anyone who has done any type of thing to support the channel. I truly appreciate y'all from the bottom of my heart, man. And so, with that being said, let's talk about the legendary Chapter 1060. Now, we talked about a lot of this stuff in depth in the chapter reaction stream, so if you want to hear us go crazy for like, what was that, like a 3-hour stream, whatever it was, please go and check out the after reaction part of the stream. If you want to watch the reaction too. But after the reaction, we discussed this for quite some time. We had a pretty good conversation, and so definitely check that out if you're interested. But if you are here just for the afterthoughts, let's go ahead and talk about this. Oh man, it automatically, the moment that I click on the page, it goes straight to the Luffy's Dream page. Now, if you did not watch the reaction, seeing this title, seeing the Chapter 1060 title, Luffy's Dream, hit me. It's just, that was the last thing I was expecting this chapter to be called, you know. It could have been called, you know, Kobe this, Sabo this, Instant Messenger. It could literally be called Imu-sama, and I would have been less shocked. It would have hit me, because the thing is, the title Luffy's Dream hits just as hard as the Chapter 1000 title for me, because this is something that we have been wanting to see for so long. And for this chapter to give it to us clear as day that this is going to be not only just an important, probably the most important plot line heading into the Final Saga. Because when you think about it this way, this part of this series, discovering, trying to find out what Luffy's dream is, this might not get revealed to us until like the final volume of the story. That's how endgame this is. This is as endgame as it gets. Luffy's dream, we already knew that this was going to have major endgame importance, especially after the Odin flashback, where we got to see that Roger himself also stated this, right? Whatever this is. And then for me, I'm going to assume that whatever Joy Boy said must have been on the same line, because everyone at Laugh Tale laughed in the same way they were laughing at Luffy here. And so, or maybe a little different, but around the same lines, Joy Boy, Roger, and Luffy. What is that dream? I have no idea. But I cannot wait to see how it's revealed, when it's presented, because it specifically states that we're going to find that, or Luffy's like putting emphasis on the end of the dream. Like, this is what's going to take place. This is what I want to be at the end of my dream. And it's like, what is that? What is going to be at the end of this man's dream? And y'all know how much chapter 225's double spread with Blackbeard and Luffy, probably my favorite character introduction, and not only in the series, but maybe even in this medium as a whole, is Blackbeard's character introduction, right? Just does so much right. But the way that we had that panel, especially within Jaya, which this was, you know, the main central theme of Jaya and Skypiea, about people's dreams never ending. That particular sequence is going to have so much weight at the end of the series that I can't imagine looking back on that panel when the series comes to a close. It's going to have an entirely different weight to it, even more weight than we could have ever anticipated, and that's already a panel with so much weight, especially with those two characters. When we actually get to see Blackbeard's true intentions and dreams from the man who cannot dream, and Luffy, who has a dream where becoming king of the pirates is a stepping stone towards that dream, it hits different. It's going to hit different. And I cannot wait, because now being king of the pirates is not the end. You know what I mean? Because Luffy, I've always assumed, was going to be labeled king of the pirates before the end of the series. Like, this is going to be something that's going to be named potentially before the final war or during the final war. But now we're going to have this to follow that, right? Like, this is true, like I said, final volume of the series content. And to me, that's the most important part of this, personally, is that thematically, my love for the way this series has handled the concept of dreams, what it does to people, what it can drive people to do, whether they exist, whether they don't exist within certain characters, how that mindset shifts because of coming into contact with somebody like Luffy and whatnot. I just love it. I love the way this series has handled the theme of dreams. And to know that at the very end of the story, we're going to have that explored, potentially in its executed at the highest level that we have seen in the series up until that point, is going to be so beautiful, man. So beautiful. Now, you know, up until this chapter dropped, my list of things that I cannot wait to see at the end of this series, like in the Final Saga, the figuring out what Luffy and Roger's dream was like, it was towards the top, but it wasn't at the very top. Now I think it's about as high up as it could possibly be, because it's going to tie in so much into Luffy's character. And I've always been of the belief that Luffy, by the time this series comes to a close, is going to end up being one of the... He already is. But for sure, once we have the entire journey to see and have that retrospective of everything that's taken place up until that point, once we get to the final chapter, like, Luffy's going to go down as one of the all-time greatest characters. And I feel like this is going to seal the deal whenever we find out what this dream is. And there's a lot of theories out there, a lot of speculation. But rather than me focusing on that, I just want to focus on why that's so thematically important for endgame One Piece, because this is one of the things that drives One Piece home, right? This theme of dreams. And to me, this is so cool. It's so cool because we don't know, not only do we not know what it is, but there's only specific characters that know what it is, right? Like at this point, he stated in this chapter that it's now the Straw Hats, Sabo, Ace, Yamato, and Shanks. They're the only individuals that have heard Luffy say this. And then, of course, Roger stated it in front of like Whitebeard and Odin, right? And so there's only certain individuals who've heard this. And then if Joy Boy said it as well, then all of the Roger Pirates heard it too. But I look forward to the day when we find out what the One Piece is. Is that going to be the day that we find out what Luffy's dream is? Or are we going to find out, or is that going to be the moment where we find out what Luffy's dream is and then he accomplishes it at the end of the story? Or is that going to remain a mystery until the final volume of the series? Because if Joy Boy said these same words, Luffy's going to have no choice but to be like, yo, that's my dream. Or something reminiscent to it. Or everyone else will be like, oh, that's exactly what Luffy said. Like, Luffy, there was somebody just as crazy as you were 800 years ago, or something along those lines, where we get to be like, oh my goodness, that's what Luffy said. You know, so I look forward to seeing if that's the case. Whether we're going to find out what Luffy's dream is whenever we discover the One Piece. Or is it going to be a scenario where we find out what Luffy's dream is at the very, very end of the story? However it's executed, I can't wait. Because this particular sequence in this chapter hit me so hard that I feel like when it comes out in the anime and they add a soundtrack to it, this is going to be one of the most powerful scenes in the entire series. And if you want any further context into that, or like something to compare it to, just look at that scene from chapter 1015, or episode 1015, I apologize, where Yamato hears this. Hears the legendary Luffy and Roger dream scene, and the way that it's visualized, right? Like that was something to where I compared that to One Piece fans getting into the series and following Luffy's dream, and then that's the way in which the series hit us, was the way that Yamato was hit in that moment, by hearing Luffy and Roger saying this dream. It's why I'm so excited to see what Luffy's reaction is going to be. If Joy Boy said the same thing, how is he going to react? Is he going to be like Roger? Are we going to have a he laughed scene except with Luffy upon hearing this? Or is he going to come up, or is he going to have like a different reaction? One that is not like that. Is it going to be like Yamato, where I'm not going to laugh at him? How could I laugh at him? You know, like, I'm so excited to see that. And so because of that, the first part of this week's chapter of One Piece, like I said, when it gets animated, not only does it have the incredible crew interactions that I love so much about this series, it had the great comedy, it had everything about the ship interactions that makes the series so special, but it also contains now one of the most important plot points for the Final Saga, which is, what is Luffy's true dream? One that has been hinted at in the ASL flashback, showcased once again in Wano, and then now, at the beginning of the Final Saga, something that everyone here got to hear, even the Thousand Sunny we saw a reaction to this panel. What is it going to be? Without question, one of the most important and emotional sequences in this series. And when I'm telling you, when it gets animated, this is going to hit so hard. This page is going to hit so hard. Man, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it, you know? But what a spectacular sequence. And like I said, for me, it hits on a personal level because of the way in which this series impacted me because of the themes of dreams. And I just love it. I love this section so much, man. And then the crazy part about it is that it doesn't even end there. We cut over to McDonald's HQ, and I don't know whose idea it was in Oda's office to cut to McDonald's HQ and have a scenario where you do not have an Oda box that prepares us, where it says Holy Land Marijoa. You're always supposed to prepare us before that happens. And Oda said, prepare you for what? It never happened in the first place. It never existed. Why would I prepare you for something that never happened in the first place? We cut to the Gorosei, and it's not just the Gorosei. For the first time since chapter 908, we see Instant Messenger Sama still with the butterflies in this room, and this is why I strongly believe that at the end of the series, man, the characters of Akainu, aka Sakazuki, Big Red, Goat Marshal D, Mr. Z, and Instant Messenger Sama are all going to, when we look back at the end of the series at those three characters, we're going to see a masterclass from all three. Because their character introductions were all magnificent. Akainu's is absolutely incredible. For me, it's one of the more underrated Admiral introductions, but it is incredible because of how it shapes them. Right? Like, we hear of these characters. We first get introduced to what an admiral is thanks to Aokiji. Then within the flashback, in Robin's flashback, we get to see just how ruthless this individual is. And then when he's officially shown to us in real time, we get to see that all of that we saw in the flashback is matched up in real time. Right? Like, he is that way. Blackbeard, set up just like Sephiroth, right? When you hear of him, you hear of the things that he's doing and the consequences of his actions, but you don't see him. You don't know who he is. When you're finally introduced to him, it's one of the most iconic scenes in the entire series. Instant Messenger Sama. We are still in that phase of just hearing about this individual and seeing the consequences of their actions, but it's different. We see it. We're seeing this individual do things, we just don't understand it. We cannot comprehend it. It's beyond our understanding. You know what I mean? Like, what in the world is Instant Messenger Sama doing? What? Doing an X marks the spot. Annihilating. Annihilating an entire island from existence. It never existed. It never existed. And what I love so much about this is it adds so much weight to Ohara was destroyed to make an example, because if they really wanted to take them out with no one knowing about it, they would have done it. They did that to set an example so that no one else in the world would follow. That's why they made sure that a Buster Call would hit there as well as a Buster Call hitting in his lobby. It makes so much sense. It's like they have to hear about the incident so nobody will ever try something like that ever again. In Lucia's case, in God Valley's case, those need to be wiped. Eradicated with no one ever knowing that they were there in the first place. That is the major key difference. And we talked about this in the discussion, in the stream discussion, but I want to bring this up again, y'all. The three characters of NL, Doflamingo, and now Im-sama all have parallels that are just so good, and they all, of course, have god complexes. But in particular, with the panels I've been seeing floating around with Doflamingo and Instant Messenger Sama both having like the bowing before them. You know, Dofi, of course, being the rest of his family bowing before him, and then Instant Messenger Sama had the Gorosei, right? And then we cut over and we have Doflamingo doing the 16 bullets, and now we have this man dropping 16 bolts of, I don't know if this is the Dragon of the Darkness flames, or if it's raining lightning, or if it's just Uranus coming down and doing something. I don't know what this is. But it had the power to immediately annihilate an island. Eradicate it. And if that is what caused the eddy at the end of the chapter, its after effects lasted days after it happened. So obviously what happened was very powerful. Very powerful. But for me, it's the intention. For me, it's Instant Messenger Sama doing this. Like, I can't wait to see the battle. This is why I'm so excited to see more from Im. Because our first insight into Im was the giant straw hat. You're like, okay, a connection to the giant straw hat wants to preserve this thing. Did it belong to Im all of those years ago? Did it belong to somebody who was special to Im? What in the world is the giant straw hat, right? Obviously, the ores connection there, both of them being frozen and whatnot, and the ores, of course, Thriller Bark, listen, if Oars was rocking a straw hat all those years ago, or an Oni was rocking a straw hat all those years ago, Thriller Bark, once again, another arc, when we look back at the end of the series, going to be heavily elevated. Heavily elevated. But Im-sama, then we go from that, then we go to the empty throne thing, and we see, with all of the pictures, Shirahoshi and Blackbeard and Luffy taking Vivi's, walking up, everybody bows before this individual, has the same eyes as Gear 5th Luffy and Mihawk, and it's like, what is this individual? But for me, what's even more interesting is if this character comes to the Void Century, then why do they still have that straw hat preserved? Why is it so important to them? They obviously value some kind of life, because butterflies, for me, maybe it's because I'm a Bleach fan, but they do represent life and death, right? And this character is one who balances life and death in their hands. That's what the butterflies always meant to me, because I'm a Bleach fan. And so this is a character who obviously maintains that balance, like a Shinigami, right? Which is so cool. Like the fact that Im-sama has like this role. But it's also the king of the world. So it's like, I just want to get more into that flashback to find out what the connection is between Im-sama and the original Joy Boy. And it's going to be crazy when we get to find out all that stuff. Just like with the Blackbeard flashback that was going to come eventually, and the Akainu flashback. But Im-sama's flashback is going to have the most important overall, like, grand scheme of the story, lore piece galore, right? Because it's going to be directly connected to the Void Century. And it's like, man, dude, at least that's what we're expecting. So, Im-sama, I just can't believe this individual did this. And it's the way that Oda structured these panels, too. It was so intense. We're like, yo, what is happening? Sabo is actually saying all of this. And then he comes down and just, whoosh, whoosh. And whether it's, whoosh, whoosh, and that's what caused this thing to come down, or Uranus was already above. Because like the Gorosei stated, this was something that Leloucia was already Sabo was already unlucky for being there in the first place. So they probably already planned on this being a part of their great cleansing, was to get rid of Leloucia. But it's just crazy to me that that this massive thing just shows up, and we don't know if it's a giant straw hat or a UFO or Uranus. Who knows? But Instant Messenger Sama just continues to get more and more spooky, and I love the way that this is all handled. Sabo, obviously, I don't think he's dead, but it's more interesting to me that Sabo relayed this information to Dragon. I want to see what Dragon ends up doing now. Dragon is a character we've been waiting to move for so long, and I've always believed that Dragon is going to confront Im-sama in some way, shape, or form. Laz and I have talked about this so many different times, but I do believe that maybe the first time we ever hear the name of the Ancient Kingdom brought up is going to be in that conversation between Dragon and Im. Because I would not be surprised if this leads Dragon to finally get up from that seat and move. Because we don't know how the series is going to progress from here on out. And now that Dragon knows, because I always thought that he knew. I thought he knew that there was an Instant Messenger Sama. This chapter implies that either he didn't know, or he wasn't, or this was information that he wanted to keep hidden from everybody else, because no one else in the Revolutionary Army knew this, right? So either Dragon did not know this, or this is something that he knows, but he is not willing to share with anyone, right? So, but just staying on those two things, regardless of whether he knew or he did not know, now that this has happened to Sabo, I wonder how he's going to react and retaliate. Because this is going to showcase the backbone of the Revolutionary Army now that Sabo has been directly attacked. And they heard this. Like, there is no ifs or buts. Like, they heard this, dude. And Sabo has told you, I did not do it. I did not do it. Who would have thought the Sabo plotline would have led to this, man? Out of all the predictions, who in the world would have thought it? But then, so it's like, how is Dragon going to react? We've always, it's not just me and us, right? Like, I'm sure all of us believe that at some point, Im and Dragon are going to have some sort of confrontation. And it's like, what is going to come of that? As for for the world's most dangerous criminal, I'm going to assume the person who, besides like Luffy and potentially Blackbeard, depending on his motivations, like the characters that are going to pose the biggest threat to Im, and Im's Instant Messenger Sama's like goals or whatever. Dragon is at the very top of that list. So it's like, how is that interaction gonna go? Is that the first time we're ever gonna see Im? Like, we need to see Dragon move and retaliate. I'm so excited, yo. But Sabo, I don't know what's gonna come of him after this. I do expect us to see him different physically and mentally. Next time that we see him, he's definitely gonna be moving different. I expect him to show up, not like he did in Dressrosa, because I'm pretty sure a lot of us think that he's not dead, right? But I do expect him to show up once again out of nowhere. Like, the next time that we see him is going to be like kind of like the Dressrosa moment where he just pops up out of nowhere in front of Luffy. Or if it's not in front of Luffy, it's going to be to go up and like swimmer against the Admirals or Instant Messenger or whatever it is, right? Like, this is going to be an amazing reintroduction where he gets back into the story, because I do think he's going to be written off for a little while. But man, Sabo, dude, let me tell y'all something. Sabo has like the biggest track record of boxing the toppest of top tiers in this verse. He boxed every one of the current admirals. Fujitora, actually no. He has not boxed Kizaru yet. But he boxed Fujitora twice. Once on his own, and then shout out to King of Lightning, a few good men going up against him in Green Bull, right? And now getting wiped out by Instant Messenger Sama. So it's like, this man is a threat. Shout out to my dog Sabo, bro. He's out here doing big things, man. Only the top of the top. And Akainu wants him too. Sabo's too filthy. That's my boy, dog. That's my boy. So I can't wait to see him again. He's definitely going to look different. Not that much more different, but he's going to have some sort of modifications to his body, like a scar or something to represent just how lethal this attack was. And so, incredible, man. You know, just goosebumps. The never existed line, just absolute goosebumps. But then we cut over to the end of the chapter, and obviously the whole Jewelry Bonney thing is on all of our minds. Like, what is going to happen here? Are we about to get an info dump? If Jewelry Bonney remained with all of those characters throughout that entire situation, Jewelry Bonney is about to be the individual that catches us up on all of the Reverie content, while also simultaneously giving us new information that we had no idea of. Right, so this could be the opportunity for Jewelry Bonney to just give us the greatest info dump in the entire series. That is a major, major opportunity that is about to be presented before us. Is Oda going to go about it in that way? I'm not sure. How fast? I'm not sure either. But Jewelry Bonney now being here, considering that if she really was there with Sabo, and like that was the reason why Sabo was able to get away, and V was able to get away, was thanks to Jewelry Bonney, and the rest of the Revs and Kuma, and it was a collective effort, then this is about to be very, very key. Very, very key for finding out new information. Now, Jewelry Bonney's role heading into this, super exciting stuff. We all love Bonney, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Her abilities. I talked about this in the stream, but I want to reiterate this again. Oda stated that heading into this Final Saga, he wants to have fun. How much more fun can you have in this first arc, coming back, whatever this is? And I heard that they, which is very, very true. I received a few messages for it, that it's snowing outside, and there was a cycle in Elbaf where it was a winter island, right? So maybe we are close to Elbaf at that time of the year. Who knows? Who knows? Wherever we are, though, when we get to that island, I'm going to assume that Oda's going to use Jewelry Bonney's ability to show us all of the Straw Hats are in some sort of age that's not their current age. Whether they're younger or older, right? Whether we have the Film Z effect, or whether we go straight up to seeing all of them at like in their 40s, 50s. Oh, that would be so clean, man. So clean. Especially if one of the Straw Hats ends up dying at the end of the series. This would be Oda's opportunity to show them all at that age, right? Like at an age where we're not going to be able to see them if one of them does die at the end of the series. And so this is going to be his opportunity to have so much fun with that. Like, they're going to be calling each other by certain names, like code names, or it's like, Luffy, what are you doing? Oh, Luffy, that's not Luffy. He's an imposter. It'll be like Return to Sabaody again, except they're actually the real Luffy and the real Zoro, and it'll be so good. So the comedic stuff right there with Jewelry Bonney with this is going to be so good. Speaking of Zoro, Jewelry Bonney and Zoro, I look forward to getting that interaction. Obviously, she saw when Zoro was about to cut the Celestial Dragon initially, and I don't think anyone else met Bonney and somebody from what I can remember. So looking forward to seeing that interaction between Bonney and Zoro. If we do elaborate on that, that'll be a lot of fun. But Bonney now being here, obviously, this is our biggest connection to the Sorbet Kingdom, how important the Sorbet Kingdom is about to end up being to the story. Is that potentially a, not a future destination, but an incoming info dump that's going to be very, very important, right? Is the Sorbet Kingdom, Jewelry Bonney, Kuma, all of that, right? Like, is that going to tie into the Marijoa referee info dump that we could potentially be getting here? It's going to be crazy. So, Bonney now being here presents all types of great scenarios, but it's all good. Like, info dump season, or learning more about the lore because of the Sorbet Kingdom stuff, or an emotional attachment to Kumar, all that stuff, or it's going to be straight comedy with amazing goat raw fire moments of 30 to 40-year-old Straw Hats all looking clean, heading into a new island where no one recognizes them. That would be the coolest thing ever, dude. I'm telling y'all, I would mark out so hard for like a 40-year-old Luffy rocking the chin badger, the coat. Oh, yo, dog. Shanks energy? No, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. So many exciting possibilities thanks to this chapter. This chapter just presents, that's what I think makes this chapter so special. And like I said, we'll have this conversation more whenever we get towards the end of the year. But the best chapters of the year. But bro, this is without question up there, man. It's such a good chapter, and it's so well focused. The intensity's there when it needs to be. The emotional moments are there when they need to be, and the surprises are there when they need to be as well. It is a perfect post-arc chapter for One Piece. And since it is in the Final Saga, it carries way more weight than what we come to expect from these post-arc chapters. Like, it was a chapter I was not expecting us getting, but I'm so glad that we got, because now it provides so much necessary context heading into the Final Saga. Like, legendary legend. I love this chapter, man. Like I said, if I did not love 1044 as much as I do, this would probably be number one for this year. That's just how much I love this chapter. And even then, I still got to think about it. We've had so many amazing chapters. I'm telling you, that chapter of the year discussion is going to be wild. I don't know what's going to win. I really, really don't, man. Such an amazing year. But yo, let me know y'all's thoughts in the comments section down below. I don't know if spoilers will be out by the time this chapter, or by the time this video drops. But if it does not, I look forward to seeing your comments in the comments section down below. And even if it is, I'll definitely be looking at them whenever the chapter releases. So that I don't have to worry about spoilers. But man, dude, what a chapter. The final, bro, Oda is moving different in this Final Saga, man. He's moving different. We're getting content that we were not expecting to get for quite some time already, because it's setting us up for even more insanity down the line, man. It's just that classic Oda setting up mysteries while also giving us the adventure. And God, I just love this chapter, bro. I really, really did, man. It was a real treat, and one that we shall not soon forget. And it's insane how many of those we've had this year. But this one was a really, really special one, man. Luffy's dream, dude, just in an instant messenger Sama, and just wow. Y'all have an awesome day. What a time to be a fan. We're lit, bro. It's time, man. Final Saga peak, yo.